There is a small creature that should not change the way we think about intelligence. A bumblebee. A body covered in pollen. A brain smaller than a sesame seed. A life spent moving between flowers, weather, hunger, and light. And yet, in recent experiments, bumblebees have done something that once seemed far beyond the reach of an insect brain. They learned rhythm. Not simply sound, not simply vibration. Rhythm, a pattern in time, a structure that can change speed, change form, move from one sense to another, and still be recognized. For a long time, we imagined that this kind of perception belonged to large minds, human minds, primate minds, bird minds, minds with long lives, complex bodies, and room for abstraction. But the bumblebee asks a smaller and more unsettling question. How much mind does life actually need in order to find order in time? This film is about the bumblebee, but through the bumblebee, it is also about something larger, rhythm as one of the first languages intelligence may have learned. Not intelligence as a ladder, not intelligence as something that belongs only to bodies like ours, but intelligence as the ability to notice a pattern, remember it, and return to it when the world changes. Start with what is easy to miss. A bumblebee does not wait for the world to become comfortable. Many insects depend on warmth before they can move well, but bumblebees can begin earlier, in the cold edge of morning, when the meadow is still wet and the air has not fully opened. They can warm themselves from within. Their flight muscles vibrate. Their thorax heats. The body prepares itself before the day has prepared the world. This is already a kind of timing. Not a clock on a wall. A living clock inside tissue, muscle, hunger, and need. And bumblebees do more than wake early. They learn when the world offers something. Flowers are not equally generous all day. Nectar rises and falls. Some flowers reward a visit in the morning, others later. A forager that returns at the wrong time wastes energy. A forager that remembers the right time survives better. Bumblebees can learn these daily patterns. They can return to particular food sources at particular times. They can use duration, sequence, and expectation to guide behavior. This matters because a bumblebee's world is not still. It is opening and closing, warming and cooling, giving and withholding. To live inside that world, the bumblebee must do more than move through space. It must move through time. Then came the experiment. Researchers trained free-flying bumblebees to distinguish between rhythmic patterns. One pattern led to reward. Another did not. At first, this may sound simple. Animals learn cues all the time. A color, a smell, a shape, a direction. But rhythm is different. Rhythm is not one thing. It is the relationship between things. A pause, a repetition, a sequence, a pattern that exists only because time is passing. The researchers changed the tempo. The same structure appeared faster, then slower, and the bumblebees still recognized it. Then the test became stranger. A pattern first learned through vibration could later be recognized through light. The body receiving the signal had changed. The pattern had not. That is the important part. The bumblebee was not simply reacting to one stimulus. It was carrying the structure across change, a small brain with roughly 1 million neurons was doing something we usually describe with much larger words: abstraction, generalization, temporal pattern recognition. The human brain has tens of billions of neurons. The bumblebee has a fraction of that. And still, somewhere inside that tiny nervous system, time was not just passing, it was being organized. So why does rhythm matter? Not music, not dance, not the human things we usually attach to the word. Rhythm, at its deepest level, is a way of making time predictable. And predictability is one of the foundations of intelligence. A mind, even a very small one, has to answer questions before the world finishes asking them. When will the flower open? When will the light return? When is it safe to fly? When is it worth spending energy? When should the body wait? When should it move? To recognize rhythm is to notice that the world is not a series of isolated moments. It has structure. Day follows night. Spring follows winter. Hunger returns. Heat returns. Flowers return. The bumblebee does not need to understand this as an idea. It does not need myth, language, or a theory of time. Its body only has to live inside the pattern well enough to survive. That may be where intelligence begins. Not with thought as we know it, but with timing. With the ability to feel that something has happened before and may happen again. And the bumblebee does not only perceive rhythm, it belongs to one. Its entire life is arranged around a larger cycle: emergence, labor, decline, death, and return. In spring, a young queen comes out of the ground. She is alone. The colony she came from is gone. The workers that fed, flew, defended, and gathered are dead. The males are gone. The old queen is gone. What survived the winter was one body carrying the possibility of another world. She searches for a place to begin. A hollow in the ground, a hidden cavity, a small darkness where life can restart. Then she builds. She gathers pollen, she lays eggs, she warms them with her own body, vibrating the same flight muscles that allow a bumblebee to heat itself before dawn. For a time, the entire future of the colony depends on one female and the rhythm she carries through the cold. By summer, the colony expands. Workers fly, flowers are visited, food is stored, the meadow hums. Then autumn comes. The colony begins to disappear. Most of the bodies that made the summer possible will not cross into the next year. Again, only new queens carry the line forward. They go down into the earth. They wait. And spring begins again. This is why the bumblebee belongs in this story about rhythm. Not because it is a symbol first, because it is a biological reality first. Its intelligence is not floating above its life. It is shaped by the same cycles its body must survive. Long before laboratories measured rhythm in a bumblebee brain, people were watching bees and their kin move through the seasons. They did not have neural imaging. They did not have controlled experiments. But they had fields, harvests, winters, burials, returns. They saw insects vanish and return with the flowers. They saw honey preserved when other foods spoiled. They saw small winged bodies moving between the visible world and hidden places. Flowers, hives, hollows, earth. And in many ancient cultures, bees became more than insects. In Greece, the word Melissa meant bee. It was also a name associated with priestesses, including women connected with Demeter and Persephone, figures bound to grain, descent, return, and the seasonal rhythm of life. In stories around the ancient Mediterranean, the bee often lived close to thresholds, between life and death, earth and bloom, the human world and something older beneath it. We have to be careful here. A bumblebee is not a myth, and ancient people were not secretly doing neuroscience, but they were noticing something real. They were noticing that some creatures seem to carry the pattern of the year in their bodies. Disappearance, waiting, return. What science now measures in one way, older cultures felt in another. That life is not only made of forms, but of cycles. And the bee was one of the creatures through which that truth became visible. This is where the bumblebee joins the larger question of this series. The orcas of Punta Norte showed us intelligence carried through culture, knowledge passed from mother to calf at the edge of land and sea. The octopus showed us another path, intelligence rebuilt almost alone in a short life without parents to teach it. The spotted hyena showed us social intelligence, memory, rank, alliance, and the ability to live inside a clan. The cuckoo showed us intelligence as pressure, one species sharpening the minds of another through an ancient contest. And now, the bumblebee offers something smaller, quieter, almost easy to miss. Intelligence as timing, as the ability to recognize structure in change, to know that the world is not random, that a pattern can return, that a signal can be transformed and still remain itself. A bumblebee does not need a human kind of mind to do this. It does not need language. It does not need a story about rhythm. It only needs a nervous system tuned finely enough to use time. And that may be one of the humbling things about intelligence. It does not always arrive as a voice, or a tool, or a plan. Sometimes it appears as a tiny body moving through a meadow at the right moment. A creature so small that, for a long time, we explained its intelligence away as instinct. And yet inside it, the world is being measured. Every morning, somewhere in the grass, a bumblebee begins before the day seems ready. It warms itself from within. It rises into cold air. It finds the flower that matters now, not yesterday, not later, now. Its life is brief. Its brain is small. Its world is immense. And still, it does something every living mind must learn in some form. It listens for order in time. Maybe intelligence did not begin as a thought. Maybe it began as timing, as the first living body that could sense a pattern and answer it. A pulse, a return, a moment recognized before it vanished. The bumblebee does not explain this to us. It simply lives it. And if we are quiet enough to notice, that small body in the flower becomes more than an insect. It becomes a question. How many forms of intelligence have been moving around us all along? Too small, too ordinary, too close to the ground for us to recognize. At Known Wild, we follow those questions through the living world. The next story is already waiting. Subscribe to go deeper.